No, I was working on a
There is a lot of money to spend.
Yes, I was working on a strategy for about 11 African member countries in a telecommunication company. Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
All right. Professor Iraqi, good to see you as well.
Good morning.
Missing in action, but good to see you this morning. How have you been?
I wasn't in Naivasha. I was just around here.
And you had no money to spend?
I'm looking for money to spend. And I traveled to the countryside.
Okay.
And I was trying to find out what is happening there. We shall be sharing the details as the program progresses.
No, but you can give us a teaser of what is happening. So
it's raining and everybody is very happy, I can tell you.
It's raining.
When Nairobians are unhappy about rain, in the countryside are smiling.
They are smiling.
They have prepared their land. They are going to plant.
Yes.
And the price of food will go down.
Fantastic.
The professor might not agree with me because he's not a farmer like me. And one of the best things I did over the weekend was to milk a cow.
But the prices of food going down cannot be that immediate.
Correct.
No, yes. Expectations.
Expectations.
Yes.
Fantastic. You know, it's good to manage expectations. You might say that then people are saying, hey, we had Professor Iraqi saying that, yeah, the food prices will go down. Why is it not really coming down? All right, let's see also from Bunyasi Sakwa. Good morning, sir. Good to see you. Good morning to you.
Good.
Yeah, you're fresh off Parliament. I hear the debate was on the floor of the House as well, and that also is a big chunk of our discussion this morning on, the public debt. Just give us a feel, give us introductory remarks. I know you're steamrolling that particular bill, that is a public debt authority, that is a public
debt
management bill that is on the floor of the House. Yes?
Yes, finally it came up for debate.
Yes.
It should have come up a year ago, but for one reason or another, largely administrative and willful, it was delayed. But we finished debate, and we are going to move into the stage of amendments. People have various views. They want to change the bill, they may want to change the bill. The key thing there, though, is that our borrowing pace and trajectory is not sustainable. And we tried to rationalize that. We tried to get reasonable controls along the chain. What we are not doing is seeking to stop borrowing. That was part of the discussion, but those are normally red herrings, particularly when people are infusing politics into the discussion. That it's not stopping borrowing, it is rationalizing the way we borrow, but also improving transparency and professionalism in its management. So we'll see what happens next week when we have to deal more closely with the clause-by-clause amendments and changes and deletions and so on.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, Dr. McPhee, good morning.
Good morning there, Deban.
Yes, just to you've been following what has been happening in Parliament, of course also food prices skyrocketing as well. That has been a catnip issues as well in Parliament, despite the fact the discussion on debt took a bigger chunk of it.
So here in Kenya, we're great people when it comes to talking. You know, we outdo everyone in the world almost. You know, we see the Kenya ambassador to the United Nations giving a very, very good speech about Ukraine. But, you know, when it comes to action, that's where we're really wanting. And I feel that, you know, we can discuss our national debt. It is becoming worrying, in fact. And as Honourable Bunyasi was saying, it is now in a situation where it's becoming unsustainable. But, you know, can we just stop building bypasses and roads and so on? The answer is no. We've got to build new schools, because the number of people in the schools is increasing. So we're in a very, very difficult situation to my mind. I don't want to be negative, but I think we've got to understand the reality on the ground. You know, there are unpaid bills. If you read the Standard of Tuesday, there are unpaid bills by the government of $500 billion shillings. This is borrowing from industry in Kenya. So the government has got to understand, you know, look, we've got to cut back this. But, you know, that's me and you. It's not, you know, just we've got to stop building. We can't do that. We've got to continue to do that. But, you know, we've got to eliminate corruption. You know, when President Uhuru Kenyatta says that we're losing 2 billion shillings a day in corruption, that is in fact 735 billion in a year. it's unsustainable. That is unsustainable in itself. So we've got to change. You know, we've got to change. But we've got to stop talking and start doing. This is the important thing.
Thank you very much. And that will be stop talking and start doing. We need action. Too much talking is taking this country nowhere. Let's see action also taking effect. Let's cross over to our city studios where we do have Professor Collins Odote as well. Good morning, Professor.
Hello, Dibal. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Good morning. How are you doing? You know, I was listening to Professor Wainaina saying that he was in higher places. I thought Professor Wainaina was in Sagana. I now know it is Naivasha.
You didn't see me?
But I think much more seriously, Dibal, listening to, thank you very much, Honorable Bunyasi, for the bill, but listening to politicians speak about the public debt, speak about the situation we are in this country, you would actually think that they were elected last week. Because for the last 4.5 years, I think many of us, Dibal, on your show, in the past, we've had the occasion of talking about the public debt, the unsustainability of it, and the role of members of parliament. And for 4.5 years, they slept on the job. Now, when they have 2 months, they are now busy telling us about how the debt is unsustainable. I actually just think that the sooner we have this parliament go home, the better, because they have been a disappointment to the people of Kenya. They must all honestly, collectively tell us that we are where we are, partly because of their irresponsibility of not delivering on their constitutional responsibility to ensure that we don't have a ballooning public debt.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. And I think we should just get down to discussing that. But I'll be remiss if I don't also show you what we have as editorial cartoons today in our dailies, just to give you a snippet of what our cartoonists have picked up for the day and to just get a general feeling of where the tone and tenor of the country is. Okay, this is Victor for you in the Daily Nation. And this is what he's drawn today. It's all about Sagana, right? That is a Sagana 3, and that is a gunny bag that was carrying the beans. He spilled the beans. All right, maybe just to comment on Sagana, I know most of you are political, but yes, when we're discussing economy, can't uncouple economy from politics. Now, politics is all about, distribution of what? Of resources, right? So that is purely economics, if you agree with me, Professor Gituro Wanaina.
No, I'm not quite sure that, and thanks to Professor Odote, I think he spotted me, Sagana. I'm not sure it was me, but I think politics is, I would define what somebody from Eswati last week defined a consultant. And defined a consultant is somebody who takes your watch, tells the time, and charges you for it. I think a politician is somebody who comes to you, pleads with you, he goes to parliament and tells you, go to hell. After he gets in. I think I do totally agree politics and economics cannot be divorced. And we can play a fair game. I think that's possible, to play a fair game. What I mean by a fair game, that a politician comes in, appreciates the leadership he has given and the responsibility, and then delivers.
Fantastic. Yeah, but I want you just to speak directly to the cartoon. Yeah, because it's a cartoon.
The beans was spilled long ago anyway, so I don't. This is out of. If you have another sense, the 60 cents, you probably knew the last 3 or 2 years ago the beans were out.
Right.
So I don't know what is there left now.
Okay, let's hear from Professor Iraki. You think these beans actually they're breaking the back of the DP? The way it is, it seems is much in agony.
If you look at that cartoon, somebody seems to be buried by beans, but it's not clear who it is. But from the colors, you can speculate who it is. Somebody has been buried by the beans. But I was not in Sagana 3, but I heard the speeches that were made in Sagana 3.
Yes.
And it seems very clear that now the central part of Kenya has become a political supermarket.
A political supermarket.
Yeah, so anybody can come and look for votes. The same way you go seeking for whatever you want in a supermarket. And what surprised me most about Sagana 3 is that the president talked in mother tongue. To me, that was significant. In fact, I wish some of the proverbs he used.
Significant or insignificant?
Very significant.
Very significant.
Because he was not trying to talk over the head of Central Kenya voters. He was talking to their heart. He was trying to appeal to them to go left or right. He was trying to give political direction. And as my colleague put it, the bills has been spilled. But we are not sure until yesterday whether they were beans, whether they were maize, or any other type of cereals. Now it's very clear. And one of the things I'm looking forward to is how the voters are going to respond to his speech. Are they going to follow him, or are they not going to follow him? In the days to come, we are going to see, because there are two things can happen. One, the voters might follow what he told them. And the voters might say, we know how to vote, we should be left to vote by ourselves. We should be left to make our own decisions. Because to me, and I've said this earlier and I'll say it again, the president should be a referee. He should let the contestants fight for themselves. And once they fight for themselves, we decide who to vote for. I don't think we should be told who to vote for, in my informed opinion. Remember, it is not just about voting, it's about the aftermath of voting. The aftermath of voting. We are going to get a new president. Is he going to improve this economy? Because at the end of the day, it's not about voting, it's about whether the money in my pocket will be more or less, whether my economic situation is going to improve. And that's what you're asking. Is there a connection between politics and economics? And all those people who go to Sagana, all the voters who go to political rallies, I don't think they're interested in the political rally. They are interested in the aftermath of voting. Will their economic situation improve?
Thank you.
And that's what we should focus on.
All right. Thank
including whether the next president will be able to reduce the debt.
All right. Okay, let me cross to the politician right now who will just give it as it is right now. Bunyasi Sakwa, looking at that editorial cartoon and following the developments in Sagana yesterday, what was your take?
Pointed with Sagana 3, I think the head of state making a campaign statement to a section of society in a vernacular language in State House, I think is a bad show. I think that is a degeneration to a very low level. I think the speech would have been fine if he had been out on the trail in a campaign trip, and he can address people out there. But I think inviting people formally to State House, State Lodge in Sagana, and speaking in a way that isolates linguistically the rest of the country as a head of state, I think that was a low one. And two, I think that he is right, the captain now heading a park in which it is no holds barred. It's already been like that for a while. It's being now, in a sense, sanctified. And I think we are going to go into a phase of really ugly confrontations. And there's a lot to say. And some of it is hinting on this or hinting on that, but many people restrain themselves in saying all they know. So I think that we're going to go into a phase in which you can tell it all, whether it's fact-based or not, but you can tell it all so long as it throws mud or stains the white shirts of the other side. I think that I feel that the president has not indeed been a referee, as Professor Iraq says, which he should be. And instead now, I think he's becoming a very ugly combatant. And now that changes the rules of the game, bad as it has been. And I think we should expect a lot more. There's a lot more to say, I think, that has not been said before and so on. But in public discourse, the element of cordiality is good, because many people might read that these are drums to war, as it were, perhaps even literally. And I don't think that's going to help the situation. It will not help us elect a good president.
Dr. McPhee, what was your take yesterday, and of course gauging the political tone and tenor right now in the country?
You know, I think what we are witnessing is what you witness all over the world. When Bill Clinton was coming to the end of his 2-year term in office in the United States, he wanted Al Gore, his vice president, to be the next president. And he actually campaigned on behalf of his vice president. In fact, there was a bit of a disputed election there, but the fact is that George W. Bush became the next president of the United States. So I think, you know, we can be a little bit too harsh on Uhuru. He is a former student of mine, so I've got to be loyal to him as his teacher. And the result is that, well, you know, I think we've got to understand we have a very difficult situation coming to us on the 8th of August this year at the time of the election. Obviously, people are worried as to who exactly is going to become the next president of the country. And as Honourable Bunyasi was mentioning, I think one of the things that we've got to try to get under control is this appetite for borrowing, because we need real leadership. And I think at the end of the day, it is the voters who are going to decide that. Unfortunately, many voters in Kenya will not actually vote on the basis of the economy, on the things that really are going to impinge upon us for the next 5 years. And let's face it, the president who gets in August this year is probably going to be president for 10 years. So we've got to really think very, very carefully before we cast our vote. And, you know, well, you know, when we see that bag of beans, it actually reminds me of that time that Gachagua, when he was the governor of Nyeri, he actually filled the KPCU warehouse in Sagana with coffee beans. He traveled to the United States on 4 different occasions, thinking that he would go to a pavement in New York and be able to sell the coffee of the people up there in Nyeri. And a friend of mine who is a farmer in Nyeri, he got 20 shillings for his coffee that year, and that is all that he got. So these are other beans that we've got to be thinking about, you know. But I think really the management of the economy is going to be the top priority. But will Kenyans vote on that? I don't think so, unfortunately.
Yeah, from you also, Professor Collins Odote. All right, Collins Odote, if you can join us. Of course, Collins Odote is joining us from our City Center studio. Yeah, you can also give your input on Sagana.
Debal,
yes.
Can you hear me?
I can. Yes.
I'm actually making the point that if you look at the beans in that cartoon, I wish we had that amount of beans in our economy. From an economic point of view, I wish that was the status of our economy, so that there was something for the next president to spill. I think the reality, as McPhee says, is that the next president is going to find a very difficult country, partly because of debt, partly because of corruption, partly because of mismanagement. And I think that's the thing that should worry us first. The second thing that, for me, Sagana demonstrates, and Honorable Bunyasi is right, that there's need for public collegiality. Sagana demonstrates something that we've seen the last 3 years, that this government